What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with my buddy Constant Kwong at the Revolution Watch Bar. I've been doing my intermittent fasting. I've just broken my fast and I'm having my coconut water to replenish my electrolytes because we have a very interesting subject today and one that I want to dedicate all of my energy to. So guys, today we want to talk about an emerging watch collector, a gentleman that's super accomplished, owns several of our favorite social media platforms. I think you know who he is at this point, and has become kind of in a very short period of time, a serious watch collector. His name is
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes.
So we want to create this video, a kind of love letter to you as a dear Mark Zuckerberg.
That's right.
First of all, we're so delighted that you've joined the fam. You've joined, in particular, the watch fam. You've become a watch collector, and that's awesome. Is that awesome to you?
Welcome, Mark. We'd love to have you.
Join us. So Mark, we also have been watching your evolution as a watch collector, and we have to say, we really loved your taste in watches. Constant, walk us through some of the watches that Mark has.
So I think the first entry on how Mark gets his, gets into his watches, I believe is the Ambani wedding, right?
Yes.
Mr. Ambani's wedding, right? And I think he saw Mr. Ambani's RM30 -01, and he actually mentioned like, "Hey, that's a cool watch."
Nice.
I think it starts from there. I'm not really sure, but I think so. All right, and that was really recent.
So this is the inception.
That was the inception.
So if this was a Christopher Nolan movie.
Wait, Watchception.
Watchception,
right?
Watchception.
Yeah, Watchception.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you, videographer.
So basically, I have a list of what he actually has owned to now. All right, I think the first one that was really blew the internet away was a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar, a linear display perpetual calendar, reference 5236P.
Ooh, I like that watch.
Yeah, right. I love that watch as well.
Instantaneous as well.
That's right. That's right. But the funny thing is, he only had one picture of it, and it was a side profile of a 5236P. Nobody actually knows what color dial it is. It can be salmon, it can be a blue. So basically, that's the best guess that we had, a 5236P.
But still, great choice.
Still a very good choice. But we went really crazy. Next, sorry, Mark. It was really like crazy because he went into FP Journe's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the first watch that he was, if I remember correctly, the first watch that was spotted was a FP Journe's centigraph in aluminium, which is a freaking insane looking watch, dude. Like, I'm so blown away that Mark actually owns a centigraph because it's like you gotta be so deep into watches to get a centigraph. Of course, he went, I think from FP Journe, he went really deep into independence, and he owns a Debitune DB25 Starry Various.
Very nice.
Yeah,
great choice.
DB. And even the JLC jackknife, which is made, as you mentioned, for the Kingsman movie, right?
Oh, the knife edge watch.
The knife edge, yes, the knife edge. So that was one that was I was quite blown away as well, because it's such an under radar watch. And subsequently, one watch that I really love that he has is the Bulgari Octofinissimo Ultra Cost Certified.
Really?
Yeah.
That is an amazing choice.
20-piece limited edition.
Fantastic.
At 600,000 euros.
Right. Well, also in the realm of these sort of ultra thin watches, to me, that's by far the best. Because you can actually operate both the crown for time setting and winding in the watch itself.
That's right.
Doesn't necessitate another tool. So
that's right,
choice. And then it's a masterpiece also of an ultra thin bracelet.
That's correct. Right? Yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
But Constant, am I correct? He also was spotted wearing a Cubitus.
That's right. So in recent, I would say within this month, he was spotted with the new Patek Philippe Cubitus. Right. And now, of course, the biggest news is he actually owns a Greubel Forsey Hand Made one.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Dude, that is a $900,000 US watch. And I mean, that's why we have this love letter. Dear Mark Zuckerberg, right?
But Mark, we wanted to put it to you this way. So we know that you are a man of great success. I believe your net worth is?
217 billion US.
217 billion US dollars. And you're a guy of extraordinary intelligence as well. We've all seen the social network. We all reveled at how you created some of the most revolutionary platforms in the world through just the brilliance of your mind. So we wanted to give you a few suggestions in terms of watches that we feel would be a little bit more commensurate with a man of your success and your intelligence as well, right? Which is not to say the watches you haven't bought are awesome, but we know you're kind of like diving into the rabbit hole, and with your kind of mega brain, you're going to go deeper and deeper and identify all the best stuff.
That's right.
We kind of want to give you our suggestions of what we think those best things could be, right? So Constant, we are going to talk today specifically about a brand called Patek Philippe, right?
That's right.
And I'm wearing a Patek, and so are you. So we're going to do a quick wrist check. I'm wearing my 5970 with a bronze dial. It's an end of series watch.
So beautiful.
And what are you wearing?
So I'm wearing a original Nautilus 3700
the nice thing about that watch is it's so thin on the wrist as well.
It is. It's still one of the best integrated bracelet watch out there.
Amazing. So for you to really understand the story of Patek Philippe, Mark, you have to understand the story of Les Frères Stern, or the Stern brothers, who were dial makers before, and in 1932 purchased Patek Philippe. And this really becomes the golden age of Patek Philippe because these guys are so brilliant, right?
That's right.
In 1932 is when they take over the company. Just 4 years later, in 1936, they create the first serially produced chronograph, the Reference 130. But the most impressive thing for me and for Constant was in 1941, just 9 years after they took over the company, 2 years into the Second World War, they create two of the greatest watches of all time, one of which we're going to recommend to you. And what are those watches, Constant?
So the first one, of course, is the Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph, reference 1518.
And the second one is just the normal perpetual calendar, also the 1526.
That's right.
But we're here to talk to you specifically about the 1518. Now, the 1518 is to us an incredible watch because it was a watershed moment. It was seismic in its influence,
That's right.
It was a Valjoux caliber 13-130,
yes,
but with a Victorian Piguet perpetual calendar embossed on top of it as well. This watch basically for me created the genetic blueprint for every perpetual calendar / perpetual calendar that will come later, because it has these two little windows, one for day and one for month, and it's got the date ring at 6 o'clock with the moon phase.
Yes.
And if you think about it, pretty much every perp cal from there, right, actually has that same configuration. So they wrote the rules, right, and they really originated this kind of extraordinary complication.
Literally the blueprint of all perpetual calendar today.
Exactly. But when it comes to 1518 collecting, not all 1518s are equal.
Yes,
Tell us about the model, how many were made, and what do you think is the coolest example?
So the 1518 was made from 1941 to 1954, and it was made in 281 examples across all metals. But the most important thing, and the rare, I would say the legendary 1518 that we want to talk about to you today, Mark, it's the 1518 in steel, which there's only 4 known. Why do I want to introduce this to you is because the last 1518 in steel was sold by Philips in 2016 for 11 million Swiss francs.
Wow, that's a staggering price.
So now we're going to calculate how much 11 million it is to your net worth,
exactly.
right?
And how much it would impact your net worth. Right? This watch was extraordinary. It was made across many different metals, but the rarest that we know of is steel.
That's right.
Right? Of 4 pieces, or is it? Because on page 465 of the Patek book created by Nick Fowkes, there is a ledger for all of the watches that were made. And you know, there's been a theory floated around for quite some time that there are 3 pieces of two-tone 1518s in steel and rose gold. Right?
Oh, really?
And if you look at the ledger, it lists all the different metals, and it also lists M for mixed as well.
Interesting.
Which is super interesting. So we don't know if this is true. So we're suggesting that either you go and acquire a 1518 in steel, which would make you amazing, or you be the first public person, dear Mark, to emerge into the public eye wearing this unicorn known as the two-tone 1518 in steel and rose gold, which no one has ever seen. And would basically cement you as a horological god. More than that, it would write your place, your very rightful place, in the halls of horological Valhalla. If Mark was going to buy this watch at, say, 11 million Swiss francs,
that's right,
what would that impact his net worth?
$0.005529 US.
$0.005529
USD.
It's a number that's so small it's hard to imagine. So we're going to go from there to another perpetual calendar chronograph, and in fact it was a successor to the 1518, and that is the 2499. Now the 2499 basically uses the same movement. From a design perspective, however, I feel it is maybe even a little sexier. Why? First, there's the size. It goes from 35 mm for the 1518 to 37.5 for the 2499, which makes it a lot more wearable. What you need to know also about the 2499 is not all 2499s are created equal.
That's right.
And you might think, Mark, that we are going to suggest you to buy a Series 1 2499, but we're not. So hold off. Constant will get to that later. But let me also break this, because I know you're a knowledge-based collector. Let me break down to you a little bit of a 2499 science, brother. Right? So Series 1 has Arabic indexes. It has a tachymeter. It has square pushers. And I think that that's kind of considered to be the holy grail because it has these 3 super desirable traits all together. When you go to Series 2, you remove the Arabic indexes and you go to baton markers.
That's right, yeah.
And you have round pushers, but you still have a tachymeter, so still very, very beautiful, right? And then when you go to Series 3, it becomes pretty minimalistic, no tachymeter, round pushers, and baton markers.
That's right, yeah.
But still acrylic, right?
That's right,
The
yeah.
crystal is made from plastic. And then when you get to the 2499 4th series, it's still a really nice watch, but it's just pretty simple in design in terms of baton markers, round pushers, and now it's sapphire crystal.
That's right,
But it is water resistant, which is also extremely pragmatic, Mark, because if you're the type of guy like Constant and myself that likes to hang in the jacuzzi, well, there you go.
Yeah,
it's important for your watch to be water resistant.
$24.99 in a jacuzzi is awesome, man.
However, there is one instance, actually I should say two instances,
Yes.
where the last series, or the 4th series 2499, surpasses the sexiness of even the 1st series watch, and even the 1st series double signature watches like this watch.
Yep.
Yep, that is a 1st series 2499 with an Asprey signature.
Double signature, yes.
That's actually owned by a buddy of ours here in Singapore. But there's a 4th series watch that could be even sexier. It's the one we want you to buy. And which watch is that, Constant?
So we're talking about the 2499 4th series in platinum. All right, so in 1987, when the final 2499, the 4th series was cased, Patek Philippe decided to keep two to case it the first time in platinum, right? So two was made. One is with the Patek Philippe Museum.
Yep.
And then the second one was actually auctioned off.
For the 150th anniversary of Patek Philippe.
That is 1989.
How much?
It was sold in that auction for 418,000 Swiss francs.
Dude, that's like nothing.
1989 though.
Okay, but in the context of 1989,
Yeah.
yes, you know, we were just rebuilding the whole mechanical watch industry, and this is 1989 was also when the Caliber 89 came out. So
That's right, yeah.
first statement of Patek that, hey, high complications are back, and that watch is significant because of that. But considering what that watch became worth,
Yeah.
it was nothing. And actually, it ended up, if I'm not mistaken, in the hands of Eric Clapton, who
That's right,
Mark,
yeah.
is one of the greatest Patek collectors of all time until you emerge as a Patek collector. No more as Mark Zuckerberg, but only as the Zuck.
Dude, I think that he can buy all Eric Clapton watches though.
Easily. So Mark, the watch that we want you to purchase is this one
Yes.
of two platinum 2499s, which was sold at auction for how much?
The second appearance of this watch was sold, of course, via Eric Clapton's. Was sold in 2012. And it was sold for 3.44 million Swiss francs. In comparison to your net worth, we are talking about 0.001737 US.
We're really starting to make a dent here. Okay. So we haven't even hit 1% yet, which is pretty far off.
Pretty far off, yeah.
So we feel as if you should deploy a little bit less than 1% of your net worth into these incredible watches, which will, again, only make you a more storied, revered, and extremely handsome watch collector.
Dude,
Now,
can you imagine if Mark actually wore the platinum or actually owns the platinum 249? It's gonna...
well, this is how I imagine it. So imagine a Patek gathering, right? And then everyone's, hey, there's the Zook. And Mark comes over and, you know, you're a nice guy and you're kind of talking to everyone. Everyone's like, what the hell is he wearing? And you're like, holy shit.
Yep.
He's wearing a steel 1518 on one hand. And then you're like, well, what's he wearing on the other wrist? And they're like, oh my God. Wait, it's a 2499, but it's kind of a normal 2499. Simple. White gold? And then he's like, oh, bro.
Yeah.
Is that the one of two platinum 2499s ever created in the 4th series? Okay, anyway, Mark.
Crazy.
We kind of know the person that owns this watch today, who is based somewhere in Asia. If you want to buy it, we'll hook you guys up. And all we ask you is that if you buy it, we just want to go to the victory party in the jacuzzi. Now, Mark, we're going to go from perpetual calendar chronographs, of which we have two, to perpetual calendar split-second chronograph. So now let's go back to 1986, right? It is the revival of mechanical watchmaking.
That's right, yeah.
Philippe Stern, who is the 3rd generation of Sterns that is running Patek Philippe, decides that he wants to create a perpetual calendar chronograph, but this time smaller than the 2499, right?
Yeah,
which is super baller, right?
Yeah.
So it's 36 mm instead of 37.5
yeah.
mm of its predecessor. And to create this watch, he uses a base caliber called the Lemania 2310.
That's right.
Which is a movement we've done a hugely comprehensive video, and you can catch it right here.
Yeah.
And incidentally, guys, I should pause to just say, if you like our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. And you can check out that video here.
That's right.
So, he uses the Lemania 2310. He creates this absolutely ravishing watch at 36 mm. Then he looks at his team and is like, hey guys, what about if we were to make a split-second chronograph version of this watch? And they're all like, bro, we respect your ambition, but like, how
do we do it, man?
Because the problem is that the 2310 was never set up to be a split-second chronograph. And the problem is something that's called rattrapant drag, right? Which means the way in which the two hands stay connected so they know how to catch up is that you have a feeler with a roller cam that's rolling around a heart cam attached to the chrono wheel, but connected to the split-seconds wheel.
That's right, yeah.
Now, the problem is when you break the split-seconds wheel, this creates a huge load on the mechanism.
That's right,
yeah. To begin with, a chronograph is kind of a parasitical device that's on top of a base caliber. So Philip Stern is like, bro, what if we create an isolator mechanism? And it was so dope. So what they did was create an isolator mechanism, and the mechanism, the equivalent, I guess, of a column wheel that activates that beautiful split-second train, is something called the octopus. And if you look at this watch, you can see it just on the top of the top bridge. And it is something beautiful to behold. But even cooler is when you turn the watch over, you can see it function perfectly. So anyway, they managed to create that watch, which was launched in 1994. And that watch has become basically, when you show up to a Patek event, if you take away minute repeaters, if you're wearing a 5004, you're the man.
You are the man, definitely. And you're still the man today, dude.
And you're still the man today. When you talk about contemporary Pateks, there is no more respected watch than that. It's also a beautiful watch from a design perspective, in particular because it's got this gargantuan crown.
That's right. The pushers in the crown is so big proportionate to the case.
Exactly. So it's got this gargantuan crown that's got the split-second button inside of it, which is like, it's like the equivalent of like a little dude that's got the biggest muscles in the world. You know?
Wow, that's such a great analogy, to be honest.
36 mm, so it's a relatively small watch. Was not made in huge quantities, right? So it was made in, the belief is just over 200 examples, with an additional 50 examples at the end of the series of the watch, all made in steel. Now, all the normal editions, which are made in various different metals, have Arabic indexes, no tachymeter, and round pushers. Right? The end of series watches are the same, except they have baton markers as well.
That's right,
But there is one configuration of the 5004 that is just breathtaking. We mentioned Eric Clapton before as the owner of the Platinum 2499. Now we have to talk about Eric Clapton's design influence on Patek. And this is clearly a dude who really knew his Patek history, really understood that, for example, first series 2499s are desirable because of the Arabic indexes and the tachymeter, right? So what he did was he asked for a Breguet 12.
That's right.
Breguet numerals in Patek chronographs are usually create the most desirable configurations. Then he asked for a tachymeter, which in chronographs also is super desirable, and how they fit both a tachymeter, a Breguet 12, dot markers on there into the landscape of 36 mm is a masterpiece.
It's crazy.
Masterpiece of design. Now, Constance's going to tell you a little bit about these watches because they were made in 4 pieces.
That's right. The 5004 Eric Clapton set was made in every single metal. So there is a yellow gold with a cream dial, pink gold with a black dial, and then a white gold version with white dial. And finally, the most desirable one, I would say, is the platinum version with a blue dial.
Wow.
Yes. So that watch, the whole set was made in 2009, and then the platinum one was sold in, if I'm not wrong, 2017 for Hong Kong 6.2 million.
Which is?
Which is 736,000 Swiss francs.
That's nothing.
That's nothing.
That's nothing. And the one that's owned by the gentleman in Singapore, the pink gold with the black dial, which is, to my mind, the most beautiful configuration. So, Mark, dear Mark, we want, as your third Patek Philippe, for you to purchase an Eric Clapton 5004.
Yeah. In P, of course, the blue one, the best one, I would say.
If Mark were to buy that watch, how much would it impact his net worth today?
Let's see. Comparable to your net worth, it's 0.00037,188 USD. So that's...
It's so small, I can't even imagine that. Now, we've talked about 2 perpetual calendar chronographs. We've talked about 1 perpetual calendar split-second chronograph. Let's just talk about a simple split-second chronograph, but maybe it's not that simple.
It's not that simple, yeah.
So we mentioned that in 1932, the Stern brothers took over Patek Philippe. In 1936, they created the reference 130, which was the first serially produced chronograph.
That's right, yeah.
But after that, the successor to the 130 was the legendary 1463, otherwise known as the Dusty Dondi, which is, to my mind, the most beautiful chronograph of all time. First, you've got this extraordinary case by the Bourgel or Frère Bourgel, right? And you have these stunning capped domed pushers with fluting on them that are just so gorgeous.
And it's also the first waterproof gentleman's chronograph that Patek ever introduced.
Yeah, in fact, here, I'm going to show you a picture of this dude. So this dude's name is Briggs Swift Cunningham, and he's an American sportsman, and he ordered a 1463 in steel with a luminous dial.
Beautiful.
But I'm not suggesting that you buy his watch because there's one watch that is even cooler than this.
Yeah.
So as much as I love the 1463, if a genie was going to jump out of a bottle and say, well, you can have any Patek chronograph that you want, which one would it be? I would not say a Tassi Tondi. I would say a 1563.
Wow, taking it to the next level.
Because a 1563 is a split-second version of a 1463.
That's right.
And
yes.
it has all of that stunning design, but it adds to it the split-second
That's
function.
right, yes.
And on top of that, there's only three known
made.
examples.
So that watch was bought by Duke Ellington on the 20th of July, 1948.
Incredible.
Yes.
And so it's actually in the archives.
It's in the archive and it's also in the Patek Philippe Museum.
That's incredible. Yeah. Okay, but there is a watch that came up for auction recently that is, to me, even more stunning. Why? Because it has luminous sword hands.
That's right.
And luminous Breguet numerals.
That's
again.
crazy,
So this is what I was saying, that Breguet numerals are usually the most desired when it comes to Patek chronograph. If you do a reference 130 or you do a 1463, if it has Breguet numerals, usually it elevates the price very considerably.
Yes, that's
now,
right.
Of course, a 1463, the most desirable will probably be a steel with Breguet numerals, but in the context of 1563s, there was only 3 known ones.
That's right.
They're all in yellow gold, so I would say any 3 of those are great. Probably the one from Duke Ellington's a little harder to get.
I think so.
Right, unless you're a jewel thief, which I know you're not, Mark Zuckerberg. We love you, dude, and we know you're an ethical guy.
Yeah.
But I would say go and chase that other one that's kind of, I guess, must still be in the landscape of the collector world somewhere.
The Duke Ellington watch was not sold. It was kept by Patek. All right, but the one that was sold by Christie's in 2013.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
2013, by Christie's at 1.57 million Swiss francs.
Which for us is a staggering amount of money, but for you, Mark Zuckerberg, I think it's affordable for you also.
Yeah.
And a good way for you to potentially love, enjoy, and experience the vintage Patek world while also buying things that are genuinely, I would say, highly collectible.
Highly, I think it's
highly
one of the most
appreciable.
collectible and appreciated watches of all time, my friend.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Comparable to your net worth is 0.000783 USD, bro. There's so many zeros.
So, okay, let's go from there to our very last choice. And that is not a chronograph, not a perpetual calendar, but one of my favorite complications.
That's right.
It's a Worldtimer. So, Constant, tell us a little bit about the history of the Patek Worldtimer.
So I know that the first Worldtimer that was created by Louis Coutier, that was the reference 96 HU, 31mm with a fixed word disc, and of course with multiple different types of hands. I think it was only made like 3. There's only 3 that was made. And subsequently, it was evolved into the 1415. Comes with the first time ever a rotating bezel.
Yeah. So this is very interesting because you have a way of telling time in all the major cities in the world and all the 24 zones simultaneously. Okay, at this time also when it was created, there was no daylight savings time.
That's right.
So now there is, and
Yeah.
unfortunately the watch is not really accurate for like 6 months out of the year. But it doesn't matter because when you wear this watch, you're wearing it because it's such a beautiful piece of art.
That's
and I feel
right.
that the watches are incredibly collectible and stunning. The 1415 is a stunning watch. It also comes oftentimes with these beautiful cloisonné enamel maps.
That's right, yep.
And those are incredibly collectible watches. Now, what's very interesting about the 1415 is there's one platinum watch made just at the end of the series. And it's a watch that Davide Parmigiani was chasing for quite some time.
Interesting.
Right? It was sold in auction and then it came back and then he tried to buy it later, but I think he wasn't able to. That is I would say an incredible watch as well, but we're not going to recommend a Platinum 1415 to you. We're going to recommend the successor to that watch.
That's right.
The legendary 2523.
That's right, yes.
Why? First of all, the 1415 is a little bit small. It's 31mm.
31mm.
Now you've got a watch that's 35mm, but it's also, to my mind, probably the most beautiful Patek case ever
That's
created.
right, yeah, I really agree.
Constant. This case created by Antoine Gerlache for Patek has the most ravishing lugs of all time.
Yep. So you have a very aggressive case for the first time ever for Worldtimer. You have this kind of angular kind of a lux. There's
Double-faceted.
Double-faceted angular lux, which is really new and fresh, you know. And that was, that 2523 was introduced in 1953.
Incredible.
You know, in that era, what are they actually thinking, Such modernism. And also it has a double crown.
Yes. So what's very interesting is on the 1415, you have all the cities engraved onto the bezel and you just basically rotate it with your hand.
That's right, yeah.
Now, in the 2523, we step it up in terms of modernism, and now you've got a smaller crown on the left-hand side of the case that when you turn it, it operates a city.
That's right, yeah.
But this watch is, as we were discussing, a masterpiece of design. So it has this incredible function, but it also has just ravishing beauty to it as well.
Oh man, yep, definitely.
All right, now there's several different ones that were made. They made them in different maps, including, I believe, Asia,
Yes.
Europe, and the Americas.
That's right, yeah.
But the one that we like best is actually, and there's apparently only two that were made with just plain blue enamel
That's
dies.
right, yeah.
One of which bears a double signature of the Italian retailer Gobi.
Gobi Milano, yes, that's
So
right.
tell me what the cost of that watch is.
So that piece was actually sold in 2019 by Christie's for 9 million US. That's a lot of money.
Well, it's a lot of money for people. Well, it's a staggering amount of money for me. It's an unbelievable amount for
For
me.
me too.
Yeah.
But
But for Mark, you know.
Converts to your net worth, you're talking about 0.00414 US. So we make an effort to calculate if you buy all 5 watches at the auction price where they were sold, you're talking about a total of 27.277 million US dollars. And in compared to your net worth, if you buy all of them in total, it's 0.01257 US.
So it's not even 1/10
It's
of 1%.
not even 1/10 of 1%. It's not even
1/10
that.
of 0.1.
Yeah, it's 1/10 of 0.1%.
So dear Mark, if you want to deploy 1/10 of 0.1 of your net worth, this would be an amazing way to do it.
My God, I didn't realize how small of a dent it is to his net worth, to be honest.
And on the
Most
subject of that,
importantly-
maybe we can add a 6 watch as well, which is not really a watch, but really an idea for a collaboration, because there has always been a tradition with Patek to collaborate with the greatest American industrialists and business leaders, like Packard, like Graves, right? They made pièce unique watches for them.
Yeah.
So Mark, dear Mark, we've got
Mark.
the Packard, we've got the Graves. Bro, where's the Zook? Right? There has to be
Nice.
a Zook, right? So we're just going to leave it at there. Mark, maybe you can get started with these 5 watches. Again, feel free to contact us. And anyone who likes our content, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Mark, hit us up, DM us. I know where that 2499 is, and maybe we can hook it up. And other than that, we love the fact that you are now a watch collector.
Yes.
And incidentally, Constant and I are dedicated to creating this series of videos. Yes, it's a series. to help you along your way as a watch collector.
So stay tuned, Mark, and also stay tuned, guys.
We love you guys, and we love you, Mark. Peace.